When you have a Pixel 10, you may get asked a few questions, like, what is that? How did you do that? And can we use your camera instead? Ask more of your phone. Google Pixel 10.
I'm Andrea, founder of a boutique handbag brand, Andy, and this is why I switched to Shopify. I tried 3 other platforms prior to Shopify, and I remember my breaking point was when I would try to make one little change and my entire site would go down. Shopify made it really easy for me to shift everything over and hit the ground running. I was able to migrate my products and all of my customer information over.
Get a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/listen. Go to shopify.com/listen to take your business to the next level today.
Pay attention. The ferry leaves at 10 a.m. Roads are busy.
Great.
Dad, pack the boot.
Yeah.
Rosie, got your teddy?
Uh-huh.
Honey, how's the car?
Windows clean, car wax
I
carpet.
meant the tyres.
Oh, sorted them at Quick Fit last week.
Brilliant.
Planning the perfect getaway this summer? Make sure your tyres are up for the job. Book today at quickfit.com or your local centre. Quick Fit. Drive away happy every time.
Are you a lifelong fan of General Hospital? Are you a new fan who wants to know more about the history of the show?
Do you enjoy talking about the show with others?
Do you find yourself yelling at the TV?
Is your self-care an hour a day in Port Charles?
If so, we invite you to join hosts
Amanda Kimmel
and Shannon Coach at the place where all the hidden conversations take place and secrets are revealed.
Meet us at Pier 54,
A General Hospital fan podcast.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the the Port Charles 411. So I originally said that this was going to be Lucky 44, Lucky and Liz 36. I feel like it's honestly 50-50. So I kind of want to keep it Lucky 44 and Lucky and Liz 36 because it starts off with Lucky and Liz because Aiden was born and then a whole bunch of stuff's going to happen. But then we end and it's really heavy Lucky focused. So what do you think?
Sounds good.
Okay. So we ended last week's episode. Basically, Aiden was born.
Yes.
There. I feel like that's the best recap for last week's episode.
Mm-hmm. That was the main event.
Yes. We all know everything that got us there. You know, Helena lying or altering the paternity results, all the drama that comes with that. And the baby was born.
Yes.
So we pick up where Aiden's birth should have been one of those rare, uncomplicated moments for Liz and the people closest to her. A day about family, new beginnings, and maybe even a little peace. Girl, you just gave birth to your 3rd son.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe while still in the hospital and the nurses helped take care of him.
Right. But Nikolas brought the baby into the room, carrying him with a mix of pride and protectiveness. He teased her that he hadn't changed the baby's name to something outrageous, and for a brief moment, things felt light and almost easy. Remember, Cameron wanted to name the baby Buzz Lightyear, but they named him Aiden Alexei Nikolasovich Cassadine, and we learned that the Savich was son of, and so in the Greek culture, that's like son of Nicholas, and Nicholas is Stavrosovich because he's son of Stavros.
Yep.
I wonder how many times. Wait a second. How many times did they wind up changing his kids like their names? Because at one point he also thought that Stefan was his dad, but I guess they always kept it Stavros, right? Because that was, and then he wound up being his uncle anyway.
Yes.
Right? Stefan was not actually his dad.
No, Stefan was his dad, right? Yeah, because Stefan raised him as his uncle,
He raised him as his uncle. But was he really? Hold on.
Yes, he was his dad, right? Because Laura had an affair with Stefan.
Yeah, but I think that Stavros was actually. I thought that they went back and forth where it was she and Stefan lied and said that Stavros was his dad, but kept it from him, and then it came out, but then it actually wound up being Stavros was actually his dad.
You know what? I don't know.
Interesting that Aiden came about. Wait a second. Aiden came about the same way that, I mean, not the same way. Stavros raped Laura, like held her captive. It was bad.
But
all right.
Two
I know that we both know this, and the second that we start watching it, we're going to go, but I can't remember where we landed.
I thought it was Stefan was his dad.
Anyway, Stavros is really his father. December 1999.
Oh, all right.
But there was, I think that because Stefan is nicer, that Laura wanted to believe that Stefan was actually the father.
I could understand that, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was also cuter.
He was cuter.
Yeah. I mean, both very handsome men, but
yeah,
Stefan.
definitely. Stefan was cuter.
Okay. Anyway, but we're not talking about that. Nikolas had the baby. Or Nikolas didn't have the baby. Liz had Nikolas's baby. Or so we think. Liz worried that maybe Nikolas didn't really like the name that she had chosen, but he reassured her he did. When she looked down at her newborn son and saw that he had Nikolas's eyes, the connection between them felt undeniable. The calm didn't last. Helena swept into the room, all elegance and sharp edges, immediately commenting on the baby's resemblance to Nikolas's father. With her usual flair for the dramatic, she suggested they name him Stavros in order to honor the Cassadine bloodline. No, it's okay. Nikolas shut the idea down quickly, making it clear that the baby's name was Aiden Alexei Niklasovich Cassadine. I've got this name thing down.
There you go.
Helena, unimpressed, called it a gauche and pretentious. The irony, I can't say that word. And seemed personally offended that part of his name honored Alexis. Liz, unshaken, smiled sincerely and joked that Helena could at least take comfort knowing they'd call him Buzz. That did not sit well, and Helena scoffed that Buzz was fine for a Spencer, but not a Cassadine, and accused Nikolas of giving in to Liz's influence. You know, the mother.
Right.
She then went for a more personal jab. Here's the deal. Do you think that Helena really abided by her husband's wishes? I don't see that. No, and they're not married. Liz and Nikolas are not married.
Right.
She wanted Liz to be everything that she refused to do too. No. She then went for a more personal jab, suggesting that Liz secretly wanted Aiden to be Lucky's son. Liz didn't flinch. She admitted there had been some time that she had hoped, but those days were gone. She wasn't about to let Helena stir up old wounds or twist things between her and Nikolas. Holding her newborn son, Liz said firmly she wouldn't change a single thing about him, including who his father was. Helena, clearly displeased, stormed out with manservant Thor in tow. When do we get manservants?
I don't know. I would like to get one of those.
My husband does have a shirt that says Cabana Boy. That's one. I'll get him one that says manservant, and then
there you go.
Out in the hallway, she dropped her composure, telling Thor that she hated watching Nikolas dote on Lucky's child. The admission made her realize it might be time for a change of plans. Back inside, Nikolas returned with Cameron and Jake so they could meet their new baby brother. The visit was short. Spencer had a cold and was staying home, but Liz was touched. She was also pleasantly surprised when Nikolas offered to drive her home when she was discharged without insisting that she move into Windermere right away. It seemed like things might start off on the right foot until they went to the nursery to collect Aiden and found his bassinet empty. Confusion quickly gave way to panic, and Liz checked with a nurse, but there was no record of Aiden being moved anywhere. Nikolas immediately suspected Helena, while Liz tried to hold on to the hope that it was simply a mix-up or that Aiden had been taken for routine tests. Lucky arrived in the middle of the chaos, locking down the hospital and explaining to Liz that she needed to be questioned as a part of standard procedure. Liz bristled, stunned that he'd even ask her, but promised it was the fastest way to help her son. Helena, meanwhile, was caught trying to leave during the lockdown. Lucky stopped her cold, demanding to know where his nephew was, and brought her straight back to Liz's room. Helena denied having anything to do with it, but then dropped a cryptic remark. Aiden wasn't the Cassadine heir. Spencer was, and always had been. No one knew what to make of that. Oddly enough, Helena then offered her full cooperation, telling Nikolas and Lucky they could search her hotel room, jet, and phone records. Nikolas studied her closely and finally decided she wasn't the one behind the kidnapping. Liz was not reassured. At least when Helena was the villain, she knew exactly who she was fighting. Now the search felt even more uncertain. Liz was terrified but clung to the belief that her baby was still somewhere in the hospital. Lucky, working alongside Nikolas, refused to let doubt creep in as they pored over every piece of security footage and visitor log they could get their hands on. Their search uncovered unsettling details: a crib tucked away in an unused operating room, sterile but out of place, and an eerie live video feed from Franco. His taunting words made it clear Aiden was part of his latest twisted game, each frame of the broadcast dripping with the kind of psychological manipulation Franco thrived on. The revelation rattled them both, but while Nikolas reacted with barely contained panic, Lucky's focus only sharpened. That's a good cop. As the hours ticked by, the tensions between the brothers simmered dangerously close to boiling over. Nikolas's urgency often clashed with Lucky's methodical approach, leading to sharp exchanges in the hospital corridors and hushed arguments behind closed doors. Liz, worn thin from fear and sleep deprivation, found herself leaning on both men in different ways. Nikolas for his protective presence and Lucky for his unwavering steadiness. Guilt gnawed at her, a constant whisper that she should have been able to protect her baby, even as she fought to stay strong for her own children. Lucky's instincts kept pulling him toward one theory. Someone with inside knowledge of the hospital had taken Aiden. When a seemingly ordinary name, Jane Morgan, surfaced on the staffing list, something felt wrong about it, like a puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. Digging deeper, he began to connect the dots between Jane's movements and Franco's calculated chaos, convinced they were looking at more than just a hired hand. Steve found Liz out of bed and immediately scolded her, reminding her that she should have called a nurse if she needed assistance. Liz snapped back, blaming Steve for how her son Aiden could have been taken from what was supposed to be the safest place in the hospital. The frustration and fear were overwhelming, and Liz wasn't ready to hear reassurances. I would think that the ICU was the safest place.
I would think so too.
Meanwhile, Lucky handed Nikolas an ankle monitor, and the moment Nikolas realized it belonged to Aiden, his horror was evident. They were baffled as to how the monitor could have been missed, leading them to suspect that Aiden had been taken before the lockdown was in place. In Liz's hospital room, Nikolas gently broke the news that they had found Aiden's ankle monitor hidden inside another baby's bassinet. It was clear whoever had taken Aiden had also had access to the equipment needed to remove the ankle monitor without setting off alarm. Liz felt a deep sense of betrayal. She had trusted the nursery to be the safest place for her son, and now that trust was shattered. Lucky promised to do everything in his power to bring Aiden home, but Liz was skeptical, reminding them that there weren't any leads left since Jason had killed Franco. The thought of Aiden being out there anywhere was devastating.
I hope they find him.
I know. Where could he be?
Nikolas stayed by Liz's side, trying to comfort her as she broke down and cried herself to sleep. Outside the room, Steve apologized to Nikolas for the kidnapping, but Nikolas assured him that Liz's anger was misdirected and that Steve wasn't to blame. Although initially hesitant, Steve admitted that Nikolas's decision to post a reward for information might be the best shot at finding Aiden. Nikolas quickly moved to set up an escrow account for the reward money, determined to do whatever it took. Do you really need an escrow account? Can't you just pull it out of your regular account when the time comes? But okay. Lucky soon discovered that Jane Morgan's apartment was untouched and her car still parked in the hospital lot. He suspected she hadn't left and began searching the hospital's vacant rooms. Eventually, he found Jane dead in one of the rooms, clutching Aiden's ID bracelet. The sight was chilling, and Lucky immediately called for a forensic team to investigate the scene. Nikolas brought the heartbreaking news to Liz, who was devastated to learn that the nurse who had been their best lead was now dead. Lucky agreed with Nikolas that Jane was likely murdered, though the full circumstances were still unclear. Liz mourned that her baby had been targeted because his identification number ended with 66, a random fact that now felt like a cruel twist of fate. Dante stopped by
the police. You want the answer? We're just adding to the list of things that the FBI are going to be like, what the heck, Shannon? So when you Google, does kidnapping reward money need to be held in an escrow account? Generally, there are no specific legal requirements for kidnapping reward money. However, there are important considerations regarding how such funds should be handled to avoid legal complications and ensure accountability. I had a feeling it was more for accounting purposes. I mean, that's what we do with hand money.
Okay.
It's so it's just to have it be separately.
I was just kind of thinking, if I say I'm going to give you $1,000, as long as I hand you the $1,000 that I promised, why does it matter what account it comes out of?
I have a feeling that the Cassadine reward money is a little bit
absolutely
a different bracket than ours would be.
Absolutely. I would be out on that manhunt trying to find that baby. I could use that money. But all right, well, good to know. Hopefully we never have to implement that, but I'm glad we now have the answer. Oh, anyway, Dante stopped by the police. That's all right. I appreciate it. Dante stopped by the police station to update Lucky, revealing that Franco was actually alive. The man who had jumped to his death was a cancer patient impersonating him. Dante suggested that luring Jason and others to Los Angeles had been a clever diversion, while Franco's true plan had always been to kidnap Aiden. At Jason's penthouse, the group pieced together the timeline of events. Jason believed Franco wanted Aiden as a way to form a bond similar to the one Jason shared with Michael. Lucky suggested they investigate Franco's mother, but Jason was skeptical that it would lead anywhere. Despite the doubts, Lucky visited the abandoned home of Franco's mother, unwilling to let any lead slip away. Spinelli worked through footage from Franco's Los Angeles exhibit, noticing moments when Franco tried to hide some papers. They discovered a video showing Franco leaving Aiden with his mother on the Oregon coast. She was charmed by the baby and even joked about naming him Pablo, a nod to Picasso, hinting at a hope that artistry ran in the family. If you kidnap a child, the artistry does not run in the family. I mean, with Liz, sure, but it's not
but
really his baby.
But Betsy was
insane.
She was having lapses with reality.
Okay. Meanwhile, Dante struggled with frustration at the slow progress of the search, finding comfort in Lulu's presence. Their conversation was interrupted by Claire, who warned that Jason was facing the threat of being sent back to prison unless tangible evidence linking Franco to the kidnapping surfaced quickly. Dante pleaded with her to delay any action, hoping for more time. Liz woke up from a restless sleep to find Helena standing over her, berating her for the choices that led to Aiden's kidnapping. When Liz demanded Helena leave, Nikolas arrived and forced Helena out of the room. Despite the chaos, Liz found herself questioning whether she was to blame for the disappearance of her son, the weight of the situation pressing down on her. Lulu stopped by the nurse's station where Nikolas was finishing a phone call. She checked in on how things were going, and Nikolas explained that Helena had been verbally attacking Liz, who was so vulnerable she had begun to believe she was responsible for Aiden's kidnapping. Lulu apologized for having been judgmental towards Liz during the pregnancy and promised to be more supportive going forward. We should take a tally of how many times Lulu should have to apologize for being judgmental.
Oh, dear God. I don't think that we have enough. We would have to hire someone specifically, not just for Lulu, but for if we wanted to have this be a contest. Listen, part of why we have general hospitals because they're all super judgy.
As Nikolas reminisced about Aiden's birth, Lulu reassured him that Dante and Lucky were working tirelessly to find the baby. When Lulu returned with coffee, she asked if Nikolas blamed Liz for anything, and he was clear that he did not fault her at all. Liz told Steve she was ready to leave the hospital despite the ongoing search. Steve apologized for the security failure that had allowed the kidnapping, but insisted that Liz was not to blame. Nikolas picked Liz up upon her release and urged her to keep the faith. They returned home to find evidence of a surprise party meant to lift Liz's spirits, but overwhelmed by everything, she broke down. Nikolas comforted her, reminding her that they had to stay strong. Meanwhile, Lucky had arrived in Oregon and made his way to Astoria. Dante called to update him that Ronnie had decided to let Jason be taken back to Pentonville, putting a hard line on Sonny instead of prioritizing saving the baby. Dante urged Lucky to call Spinelli for assistance, warning that Spinelli wouldn't cooperate with Jason in jail but might act for the baby's sake. Spinelli was already digging and revealed that Franco had bought a house at 227 Larchmont Lane with the title in the name of Karen Robertson. Lucky quickly connected the dots. Karen Robertson was likely Franco's mother, Karen Anderson. They agreed to follow this lead. At Karen's house, Lucky was approached by a neighbor who confirmed that Karen had a baby named Pablo who was adorable. Lucky carefully hid his relief at hearing this confirmation that Karen had Aiden. Later, Lucky observed Karen returning home with the baby and hid nearby. Back in Port Charles, Helena confided to Thor that she doubted Aiden would ever be found. She didn't want Nikolas to keep grieving over a child who wasn't really his, so she decided it was time to reveal that Lucky was Aiden's biological father. Oh my gosh, I know Helena's awful, but who thinks that? Who has that thought process? The baby's dead anyway, so we should let him know. Quit being concerned. It's fine.
Well, that way, he doesn't have, or Nikolas doesn't have to actually be upset about it.
Right.
It's still his nephew.
That's what I was going to say. It would only be your nephew then. Who cares that he's gone? At home, Liz and Nikolas looked up at a welcome home banner. Liz promised things would be different if Aiden was returned, and to Nikolas's surprise, she agreed to move to Windermere with the children. Nikolas cautioned her not to make decisions out of fear and suggested they focus on bringing Aiden home first. Liz admitted she had been slow to accept that Lucky wasn't Aiden's father and realized that their relationship was over because Lucky had understood they were too toxic for each other. She acknowledged she should have let Lucky go sooner and stopped blaming Nikolas. She prayed their son would come back safe and vowed to raise Aiden with Nikolas, who held her close. Liz then told Nikolas she was ready to call Audrey so that he could go pick up Cam and Jake, hoping being around the boys would help her cope. Nikolas offered to leave once the boys arrived, but Liz wanted him to stay to help break the news to them about their brother's disappearance. Before they could prepare, the doorbell rang. Liz rushed to the door, hoping it was news about Aiden, but it was Helena. Nikolas warned Helena that their focus was on finding Aiden and they didn't have time for her distractions. Helena revealed she had crucial information about the baby.
Back in Port Charles, Nikolas and Liz confronted Helena in their living room, demanding answers about the kidnapping. Helena continued to berate Liz for what she called selfishness. Their tense exchange was interrupted when Alexis arrived unexpectedly, clearly unhappy to see Helena there. Alexis confronted Helena in no uncertain terms, warning her to stay out of Nikolas and Liz's lives and making it clear that she, Nikolas, and the rest of the family were united against Helena. Helena responded with a cool, condescending tone, telling Alexis to mind her own business. The tension between them was thick, and Alexis didn't hold back. She told Helena that no one trusted her, and Nikolas hated her presence. Nikolas stepped in and firmly told Helena that unless she had real information about their missing son, she needed to leave. Helena didn't walk away quietly. Instead, she used a cryptic warning, telling Nikolas to remember the day before exiting. Yeah, I feel like he's going to remember the day that he thought his son was kidnapped.
Right.
Didn't need your warning, Helena. Thanks. Once Helena was gone, Alexis turned to Liz and promised unwavering support, reassuring her that she would be there no matter what Liz needed during this difficult time. Nikolas later caught up to Helena on the waterfront, demanding answers. He wanted to know why she kept tormenting Liz and what role she might have played in Aiden's kidnapping. Helena tried to unsettle Nikolas by questioning how committed Lucky was to the search, reminding him of the complicated family ties, how Lucky's fiancé had an affair with Nikolas, and how Lucky might actually be Aiden's father. Nikolas admitted he should have pushed Helena away much earlier and accused her of aiding Franco's plan to take the baby. Helena swore on the family name that she wasn't hiding Nikolas's son or keeping any secrets about his whereabouts. Technically, she's not lying.
Right.
Meanwhile, in Astoria, Lucky managed to get inside Karen's house after some persistence. Showing his badge, he explained to Karen that the baby she was caring for, whom she called Pablo, was actually Aiden, the kidnapped child from General Hospital. Lucky carefully laid out his connection to Liz and tangled relationship, omitting the affair detail, but emphasizing that he was the father in his version of events. He appealed to Karen's empathy, asking her to imagine the pain that Liz must be enduring. Karen was skeptical at first, reluctant to believe Lucky's story, but his sincerity and non-threatening approach eventually won her over, and she handed over the baby, allowing Lucky to take him home. On the plane back to Port Charles, Lucky took the opportunity to bond with Aiden, explaining to the infant that he claimed to be his father simply to get a reaction from Karen and secure his safe return. Lucky didn't correct a flight attendant's mistaken assumption that he was Aiden's dad, knowing it helped keep things simple. He gently warned Aiden about the dangers they might face, especially from the Cassadines like Helena, but he reassured him that the Spencer family would always be there to protect him. Why am I the one reading this part? Lucky opened up, telling Aiden that while he had hoped to build a life with Liz, he recognized that Nikolas was his son's father, though part of him would always wish it was different. Back in Port Charles, Shirley's daughter, Manny, arrived at the hospital, and her attitude initially hostile. She wanted to collect Shirley's jewelry, but expressed resentment about her mother's past decisions, how Shirley had left her husband and children years before to seek adventure in her new life. Liz spoke to Marnie with warmth and understanding how much Shirley had helped her during a difficult time and how she had come to see Shirley as a source of wisdom and comfort. Liz also conveyed that Shirley had her regrets, but had made the best choices she could under the circumstances. Hearing this, Marnie softened and agreed to take Shirley's belongings, showing a change of heart. And Liz really should have been able to bond with her over, oh, by the way, my mom ditched me when I was a teenager too, so I completely understand what you're talking about.
Right.
Nikolas and Liz knew it was time to tell their other children, Cameron, Jake, and Spencer, about Aiden's disappearance. But just as they prepared to break the news, Lucky walked in carrying the baby. Relief flooded the room as Liz held Aiden. Oh. And this was Jonathan Jackson's baby.
Yes.
Titus, right? This was the baby, or was he older?
No, I think
Hold
it was
on.
this. I think it was him as a baby. They just said he played Aiden
2011
as
to
a
12.
baby.
This is still 10. So I think it was toddler. Okay. Spoiler alert. Next year in 2011, Aiden is Titus, Jonathan Jackson's son. Just in case I forget to say that next time.
They were so cute when they were talking about that.
I know. Oh, and if you don't know what we're talking about, we saw Jonathan Jackson and his lovely wife at an event in July of 2025. And you can go listen to that little review, not the event. We weren't allowed to record that. Okay. Relief flooded the room as Liz held Aiden close and Nikolas put his arm around her. Lucky took a moment to appreciate the scene, a family reunited, healing together after so much turmoil. Later, Maxie found Lucky standing alone on the pier, soaked by the rain. She shared her umbrella and led him to Jake's to get out of the storm. Maxie was happy to hear that Aiden had been found and safely returned, but she was surprised to learn that it was Franco's mother who had been caring for the baby all along. Lucky gave credit to Spinelli. That's something we should do, is how many people stole babies for their moms. Lucky gave credit to Spinelli for helping locate Karen and Aiden, but quickly shifted the conversation when Maxie pressed him about what else was going on in his mind. Lucky admitted that he had lied to Karen, telling her that he was Aiden's father to gain her trust. He also confessed that part of him wanted to believe the lie himself. Holding Aiden on the flight home had stirred something inside Lucky. A feeling that things might be falling into place, even if the truth about their complicated family ties was far from simple. Maxie admitted that she didn't have a maternal bone in her body. Oh, Maxie. Girl, yes, you do. But she understood why Lucky felt such a strong fatherly connection to Aiden. Before she could expand on that thought, she noticed Matt at the jukebox and excused herself to go talk to him. Matt smiled when Maxie tapped on his shoulder, apologizing for being short with her at the hospital. Maxie reassured him that it was okay, knowing how rough it was for him to take Mac's scolding. Matt then noticed Lucky waiting for Maxie and guessed she wasn't free to have a drink. Maxie explained that Lucky was a friend having a difficult night, and Matt offered to take a rain check, which surprised Maxie and made her happy that he wasn't upset. When Maxie returned to the table, Lucky asked her to clarify what she meant about his connection to Aiden. Maxie reminded him that he was Aiden's uncle and pointed to Mac as a perfect example of a man who loved the kids he raised, even if they weren't biologically his. Lucky smiled and admitted there were times when Maxie was surprisingly wise. I feel like I could see him saying that as a joke and not as condescending as that just sounded.
Right.
Meanwhile, at the loft, Dante let Ronnie in, where Michael was casually watching a baseball game. Ronnie tried to question Michael, but Lucky stepped in, explaining that the elderly witness could only say the man with Johnny was tall and blonde, which wasn't enough to bring Michael in on parole violation. I guess he had to go. I guess there was questions that if Michael had broken parole and Lucky had to go in. Lucky expressed to Dante and Michael that he wanted to know the truth. Michael shared that he was trying to make peace with Sonny when he saw a speeding car and pushed Johnny out of the way. He insisted the shooter wasn't one of Sonny's men. Dante and Lucky both recognized the irony that they were covering up for Michael, the same cover-up that had put him in prison originally. And Michael said he was willing to do whatever it took to avoid going back.
At the police station, Lulu and Lucky talked about marriage. Lulu joked that saying, "I do," seemed like the fastest way to ruin a relationship, which bothered Lucky. Lulu explained that what she had with Dante worked well without marriage and doubted that happily ever after really even existed. Lucky agreed that vows didn't change things and that people's unrealistic expectations often led to disappointment. He warned Lulu to run if a guy told her she completed him, because no one should rely on another person to be whole. Lulu was surprised by his bluntness, but listened as Lucky advised her to be honest with Dante if she wanted this relationship to work. Someone should rehab this conversation with Lulu.
Right.
Michael later showed up at the station reporting that Sonny's men weren't responsible for the drive-by shooting since he had gotten a good look at the attackers. Lucky reminded him that Sonny had still set everything in motion and warned Michael to stay clear of it before someone got hurt. Jason stopped by shortly after, surprised Michael hadn't told him he was there during the attack. Lucky suggested Michael might not have wanted to worry Jason and reassured Jason that Michael's name was left off the report to protect his parole. Still, Lucky urged Jason to talk to Sonny, fearing the situation would spiral into violence. At the Weber house, Nikolas watched Cameron and Jake play on the floor. Cameron wondered if he'd be allowed to ride Spencer's pony when they moved to Windermere. Nikolas suggested Cameron ask his mom. Liz overheard and said she didn't mind Cameron riding the pony, but reminded the boys the move was only temporary. She sent them to pack some things while fussing over Aiden. Nikolas asked if she was having second thoughts, but Liz smiled, excited about what the change could mean for their family. Later, Robin told Liz she was surprised about the move to Nikolas's place. Liz admitted she had been hard on Nikolas before, but wanted to give their family a chance to bond with Aiden. Robin asked if Liz and Nikolas were a couple, and Liz said she didn't know what the future held, but that things were better since she wasn't angry with him anymore. Robin encouraged Liz not to be too hard on herself, reminding her everyone makes mistakes. Liz appreciated Robin's kindness, but wondered if Robin would feel the same if the roles were reversed in her relationship. Robin admitted probably not. Liz was grateful for her beautiful baby boy with Nikolas and decided it was time to make the right choice for her children. Robin urged Liz to make some right choices for herself, too. Thank you, Robin. I'm sorry, I don't think that's in the best interest for the kids. We're going to move in there temporarily, and then we're going to move back out again. That's going to confuse them even more.
Yeah, just kind of.
Later, Cameron rushed out to the limo where Jake was waiting. Nikolas told Liz she could still change her mind about the move, but she insisted she wanted to see where things might go with him. Nikolas picked up Aiden's carrier and took his son outside. Liz took one last look at her living room, turned off the light, and quietly closed the door behind her. You could see where things go without moving in, but okay. At Windermere, the boys were thrilled by the colorful cupcakes laid out on the sideboard. Liz let them each have one, but reminded them to clean up and thank the cook. After Cameron, Jake, and Spencer ran off to play, Nikolas admitted he was glad Liz was giving the new living situation a chance and hoped it would help bring some normalcy to their family. Nikolas and Liz discussed how the boys would be sleeping, with Liz chuckling as she predicted they'd probably sneak into each other's rooms during the night despite any rules. Nikolas was curious if Liz liked her new room, and when her eyes landed on the tea and s'mores arranged on the sideboard, she lit up. Clearly, Nikolas knew her guilty pleasures well and smiled knowingly. He told her to speak up if she ever felt overwhelmed or smothered, assuring her the staff would respect her wishes whether she wanted lots of help or to handle things on her own. Liz admitted she'd been so focused on proving she could manage everything herself that she hadn't realized she was really just trying to prove it to herself. She appreciated everything Nikolas had done for her during this time. Later, while Liz took a bath, Nikolas cradled Aiden and spoke softly to him about what a wonderful mother Liz was and promised to be a better father to their son. Liz returned to the room just in time to hear Nikolas's heartfelt words, and as they both looked down at Aiden, they shared a quiet moment acknowledging how beautiful their son was. At Jake's, Lucky was curious about what made Maxie think Lisa had crossed a line with Patrick. Maxie admitted she saw some of her own obsessive tendencies in Lisa, like how she had been over Lucky, and suspected that something was going on, even if Lisa wasn't stealing pills. Lucky reminded Maxie that she wasn't solely to blame for their affair, though Maxie said she had known Lucky was married but still accepted some responsibility. Lucky said he had been fully aware of his choices and that things had worked out as they should, especially now that Liz and the boys were settled at Windermere. Maxie wondered if Lucky was okay with that arrangement, and Lucky simply asked why he wouldn't be. Later, Lucky returned to the table with drinks, club soda thanks to Maxie's influence, and they circled back to Lisa. Maxie explained Patrick's history with Lisa and suggested Patrick might be more than casually reconnecting with an old flame. She even thought Lisa was acting like a stalker during Robin's absence. Lucky suggested there could be an innocent explanation, but Maxie stood firm, convinced Lisa was up to something. Lucky wished Maxie would stop carrying so much guilt about their past, but she admitted she regretted some things while still valuing the time they spent together. She realized she had shifted the conversation to herself instead of asking for advice. As she prepared to leave, Lucky asked if she wanted to stay for a game of pool, but Maxie refused, not wanting pity. Lucky reassured her it wasn't pity. He wanted to invite her earlier, but waited for the right moment. At the hospital, Ethan showed up worried about Johnny's condition. Maya informed him Johnny had about a 50-50 chance of pulling through. Lucky questioned Ethan, who hinted Sonny was behind the attack but was cagey on the details. Ethan explained Johnny had been framed for murder and nearly killed in a car bomb, then asked Lucky when Johnny would finally fight back. Lucky wanted to know if Johnny had targeted Sonny first or if Sonny had gone after Johnny. Ethan told him to ask Sonny directly. Johnny woke up as Maya checked his vitals and joked that fixing him would be good luck. He asked Maya to let Ethan in and to call Olivia. Oh, God, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Alone with Ethan, Johnny joked about being eager to say, "I told you so." They shared a laugh until Johnny suddenly lost consciousness and alarms blared. Maya rushed in and told Ethan to leave. Passing Lucky on the way out, Ethan asked if he still believed the shooting was self-defense. Johnny was rushed into surgery shortly after. Lucky pondered what Johnny meant when he said Ethan had been right. Ethan reminded him everyone knew Johnny and Sonny wanted each other dead. Lucky asked if Johnny had been carrying a gun during the incident. Ethan confirmed Johnny usually concealed a weapon, but questioned why none had been found on him now. Ethan suggested that maybe this time Johnny hadn't armed himself, which was unusual given his history. Lucky found it hard to believe that Sonny would just brazenly shoot Johnny in public on a busy street corner with witnesses around, without any attempt to cover it up. He recognized that Sonny was capable of murder, but he wasn't the careless type. Ethan reminded Lucky that Sonny had gotten away with murder for years, and his boldness was nothing new. Lucky approached Maya and Ethan at the hospital, wanting to talk to Maya about Johnny's condition in the shooting. Although Maya hadn't witnessed the event herself, she was willing to answer Lucky's questions. Unfortunately, she couldn't provide any new or helpful information regarding the shooting. Shortly afterwards, Dante arrived for an update. Lucky was suspicious that Ethan was holding something back, but Dante was convinced Sonny had shot Johnny without cause and was now lying to escape responsibility. Yeah, I think Lucky's right. Sonny doesn't just open shooting on a corner. He's not stupid.
No, he is definitely, let's make this as quick and quietly as possible. Not a big ta-da,
Right.
I'm Andrea, founder of a boutique handbag brand, Andy, and this is why I switched to Shopify. I tried 3 other platforms prior to Shopify, and I remember my breaking point was when I would try to make one little change and my entire site would go down. Shopify made it really easy for me to shift everything over and hit the ground running. I was able to migrate my products and all of my customer information over.
Get a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/listen. Go to shopify.com/listen to take your business to the next level today.
For one night only, you could play the Traitors Live experience alongside former Traitors players and other famous faces at a special evening presented by Claudia Winkleman, raising money for comic relief. You could take on the likes of Rochelle Humes, Nish Kumar, Rosie Jones and Scott Mills, and legendary players including Linda, Mina and Diane. For your chance to enter and to see full T's and C's, go to comicrelief.com/traitors. This message was brought to you by Comic Relief in partnership with the lovely people at Acast.
At the police station, Lucky recognized Ethan's loyalty to Johnny would make him unlikely to be fully forthcoming about the shooting, but he still had questions to ask. He wondered what Ethan intended to do if Johnny survived, since it seemed Johnny couldn't keep flying under the radar for much longer. Ethan agreed, but made it clear that he wasn't about to suddenly turn into a law-abiding citizen. Lucky joked that Ethan could always think about becoming a cop, which amused Ethan, though he admitted having a badge might have its perks. Ethan was surprised Lucky had chosen to become a police officer and wonder if Lucky ever missed the freedom of living outside the rules. No, just because you're not a cop doesn't mean you live outside the rules.
Right?
Lucky didn't defend his choice, but warned Ethan he wouldn't give his brother a free pass if murder was involved. Ethan promised he would never kill anyone in cold blood and suggested that if Lucky ever got tired of being a cop, the two of them could team up, hinting at endless opportunities if they joined forces. Not long after Ethan left, Maxie arrived at the station, eager to hear if Lucky had looked into Lisa Niles' past. Lucky was curious what had sparked her sudden interest. Maxie explained that Lisa's odd behavior and recent unauthorized outing with Emma worried that Robin and Emma might be in danger. Meanwhile, out in the woods, one of the Lopez gang members broke into a cabin and Sam shot him. Jason almost fired on the next intruder, but it turned out to be Lucky. Lucky explained that he had been following the Lopez gang and was about to call for backup when he was spotted, forcing him to flee. He lost his cell phone during the chase, but was relieved to find the cabin before the gang caught up. Sam and Jason explained how their situation started when Sam tried to collect evidence against the Lopez gang to clear Jason off false charges from Ronnie. Jason had rescued Sam, but ended up destroying the gang's van and got trapped in the cabin after Sam sprained her ankle. Since Lucky's car was nearby, Jason suggested Sam and Lucky make a run for it while he held off the thugs, but both refused, unwilling to leave Jason to face the armed men alone. Lucky warned that if he didn't check in soon, the police would start searching for him. Before they could decide, a burning bottle was thrown through the window, setting the cabin on fire and forcing them to take immediate action. Lucky, Sam, and Jason found themselves trapped in a cabin deep in the woods, surrounded by Santos Lopez's men, who had just set the place on fire. The flames quickly began to engulf the cabin, forcing them to think fast. Lucky came up with a risky plan. He would create a diversion at the front door to draw the attackers' attention, while Jason and Sam slipped out the back to safety. The tension was thick as Lucky made his move, and thankfully Jason and Sam managed to get away without harm. Not long after, Lucky emerged from the burning cabin, but the danger hadn't passed. Gunfire from Lopez's men still rang out as Jason made the bold choice to lead the attackers on a chase through the woods, firing back to scatter or take down the remaining threats. Lucky, growing frustrated by the delay in backup, finally heard the sound of police sirens and quickly told Jason and Sam to let him handle the conversation when the law enforcement arrived. Later, I'm sure that Jason was not going to argue with him about that one.
Right.
No, please let me talk to the cop, Lucky. Later, Jason met with Claire privately in a conference room, and Claire reminded him of the favor he owed her for securing his release from Pentonville. Jason shifted the responsibility to Lucky, mentioning that Lucky was his alibi for the night in question. Lucky soon confirmed to Claire that he had been with Jason and Sam during their run-in with the Lopez men. After ending the call, Claire argued that Sonny could have reached out to Jason directly rather than involving so many others in the mess. And I could be wrong, but I think at this time, Claire was having a thing with Sonny.
I don't know if they were together yet, but I know that they were flirty, yeah.
There was something going,
Yeah.
Back at the hospital, Michael confronted Johnny, accusing him of ambushing Sonny. Johnny maintained he was unarmed when Sonny shot him, but Lucky arrived just in time to tell Michael to leave, warning him that any contact with Johnny would complicate things further. After Michael left, Lucky began recording an interview with Johnny, but Johnny surprised him by offering Lucky a spot in his operation, telling him it was better to laugh with the sinners than die with the saints. Lucky didn't entertain the offer and walked away. At Dante's loft, Lucky ran into Lulu and shared the unexpected job offer from Johnny. He admitted a small part of him was tempted, but Lulu cautioned him to be careful, reminding him that he had never been great at following rules. Lucky expressed his frustration, feeling like the criminals always had an advantage while those trying to do the right thing were stuck, coloring inside the lines. He even heard his father's voice in his head, questioning why he had become a cop in the first place. Though feeling disillusioned, Lucky reassured Lulu that he wasn't going to cross over, he was just venting off some pressure. Later, Lucky checked in with Maya about Johnny's condition and noticed her uneasy demeanor around Aiden, despite her claims that nothing was going on between them. At the lab with Maxie, she pushed Lucky to arrest Lisa, but he reminded her that they had to clear Robin first. When Mac arrived, they all agreed on the urgency to gather evidence quickly because Robin was starting to show signs of strain. Back in his apartment, Lucky discussed Lisa's situation with Mac over the phone. And I forget exactly what was going on with Lisa, but there was something going on where Maxie was picking up on that she was going to be dangerous and all this stuff. But there's a reason why so much of Lucky's cop stuff is in this section, and we'll get there in a second. He explained that they needed to wait for Lisa to make a mistake. He admitted that Lisa's complaint against Robin wasn't necessary, but couldn't ignore the fact that Robin had openly threatened Lisa in front of witnesses. Lucky confessed that he was growing tired of following the rules all the time, even though there was no other choice. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. Tracy was there, offering to pay Lucky to find Luke. She wasn't ready to forgive Luke, but she desperately needed him back so that she could have someone to be angry at. Lucky recognized the familiar look in Tracy's eyes. He could tell she sensed he wanted a reason to leave town. After she left, Lucky contacted a fence in Amsterdam, confident that Luke would eventually reach out. Just as Lucky was about to follow up on a lead, Interpol agent Bates appeared at his door. Lucky assumed this visit was connected to Luke, so he agreed to go with the agent, stepping into yet another complex chapter of his life.
Agent Bates made it clear that Luke wasn't the focus of his visit. He had a different reason for coming to Lucky, Pulling out a photo from the morgue, Bates showed Lucky a dead man who looked almost exactly like him. The man was Ronan O'Reilly, a known assassin tied to the Balkan, who had recently died in what was described as a freak accident. Bates handed Lucky a thick dossier packed with everything they had on O'Reilly and explained that Lucky only had 10 hours to absorb the details and fully prepare himself to take on Rowan's identity. Since Rowan had been a loner and an orphan, the agent said, there were few people who knew him well enough to challenge an imposter, something that worked in Lucky's favor. The agent also gave him the cell phone recovered from O'Reilly's body, stressing the urgency of assuming the assassin's role before anyone realized the real Ronan was dead. And that happens all the time.
All the time. I actually do wonder how much that does happen, though.
I just like, hey, this person died. You look just like them. You're taking over. It's fine. Back home.
This is a true crime documentary. No kidding. We really do. Because this has to happen. Like this part, honest to goodness, does have to happen, right?
Oh, I'm not sure about all that.
I feel like it's soapy, but I don't feel like it's a stretch.
I just wonder how they have a database that has everyone. I mean, I know there's face recognition now, but back then, did they have that information to be like, this guy died? Oh, there's a cop that looks just like him in Port Charles. Let's just go tell him you're taking over.
Right. Not even asking. Just, hey, by the way, you're doing this now.
You have hours to learn all this. Here you go.
Right. Oh, you didn't ask us to or didn't agree to? It's tough.
Right. Back home, Lucky gathered Ethan and Lulu for an unexpected family meeting. He shared that Luke was missing once again and that Tracy had offered financial backing for Lucky to find him. Ethan quickly offered to tag along, but Lucky preferred to go solo, wanting to keep the funds undivided. Returning to the Interpol office, Lucky formally agreed to the assignment, understanding that refusal would mean the agency used whatever dirt they had on Luke to force his hand. Needing to quickly get up to speed, Lucky enlisted Dante's help to learn about Galloway United, not just the soccer team, but the local underworld. Dante gave him straightforward advice: listen more than talk, stay alert, and watch for anyone trying to take advantage. Lucky admitted he was being thrown in head first with only hours to prepare. Later, Lulu reached out trying to figure out why Lucky had called, but sensed he wasn't ready to reveal much. Meanwhile, Dante ran into Ronnie at the station, immediately accusing him of being a corrupt cop tied to Sonny's tangled web. Their sharp exchange highlighted the deep and dangerous connection Lucky was about to navigate undercover. Arriving in Ireland as Ronan O'Reilly, Lucky stepped into the familiar setting of a local tavern and ordered Ronan's usual ale, but the calm was quickly shattered when Siobhan stormed in, furious, and slapped him, accusing Ronan of being a murdering bastard for killing her beloved Donnie. The bartender tried to diffuse the tension, reminding her that Donnie had known what he was getting into. Before things could escalate, Liam, Donnie's brother, burst in wielding a knife and intent on revenge. Lucky defended himself, but rather than escalate the violence, he warned Liam and let them leave. Siobhan was shocked and questioned why Ronan showed mercy to Liam when the real Ronan would have not hesitated to kill him. Their conversation turned from confrontation to something deeper. Siobhan admitted how exhausted she was from the endless cycle of violence and pleaded with Ronan to break free from it. Lucky was surprised by her hope and openness and accepted her invitation to continue the discussion somewhere private. At Ronan's apartment, the mood shifted sharply when Siobhan pulled a gun on Lucky. Quick to his feet, Lucky disarmed her and challenged her to follow through if she was serious. But when she hesitated, Lucky encouraged her to put the gun down and find a way to heal rather than hold on to hate. Still convinced Lucky wasn't the real Ronan, Siobhan sensed a compassion in him that didn't belong to the man she knew. Siobhan later confronted Lucky with her suspicion, prompting him to drop the Irish accent and reveal the truth, that he was an undercover cop. Yeah, that's another thing. Not only do you want me to take on a role of someone else, but you want them to have a completely different accent that you expect me to nail in a matter of hours. Convincingly enough for his girlfriend to believe. Sure, not a problem at all. While she doubted him at first, she was intrigued by his Yank accent and the obvious change in demeanor. Lucky explained how, after killing a man and hiding in a church, he found faith and a new sense of purpose, a soul he never expected to have. Siobhan mourned that Siobhan mourned that his redemption had come too late after Ronan had taken away the person she loved most. As she left, she warned him that having a conscience in their world was a dangerous thing that could get him killed. Shortly after, Lucky received a call instructing him to meet someone at the usual place, but having been compromised, he told the caller they needed to change the meeting location. The caller assured him the contact would come to him instead. Just then, there was a knock on Lucky's door, signaling his undercover assignment was moving to the next, more dangerous phase. Lucky, fully immersed in his role as Ronan O'Reilly, was trying to arrange a meeting with the Balkan without revealing that he didn't actually know the location of the so-called usual place. Just as he was wrapping up a phone call, Siobhan knocked on his door. After letting her in, he was warned that men with Slovak accents had been asking for Ronan in the restaurant below. Though grateful for the heads up, Lucky urged Siobhan to leave before she became a target too. She refused, insisting she was armed and ready to help. Keeping up his Irish accent and maintaining his Ronin persona, Lucky explained that these men lived by the brutal rule of leave no witnesses, implying that anyone close to him was in danger. Siobhan pressed him, saying she could see a change in Ronan, encouraging him to embrace that change and walk away from the gangster life. Lucky countered that he couldn't do that yet. He needed to make things right, a burden he carried deeply. He confessed that he was responsible for the death of her lover, Donnie, and he didn't want to be the cause of her death, too. After a tense moment, Siobhan kissed him on the cheek and left the room, clearly wrestling with conflicting emotions. As soon as Siobhan was gone, Lucky called Dante, urgently asking him to gather any information he could on the Balkan. Dante was shocked to learn about Lucky's undercover assignment and warned him to get out of there quickly. The Balkan, Dante said, was a dangerous criminal, a walking death sentence, and Lucky's situation was extremely precarious. The call ended abruptly when loud pounding came at Lucky's door. Opening it, he was confronted by two imposing men with thick Slavic accents who told him their boss was unhappy with him. Before he could react, they shoved a hood over his head and dragged him out.
Lucky was taken to a dimly lit warehouse where he was tied to a chair, left to wait for the Balkan. Meanwhile, back in Port Charles, Dante finally came clean to Lulu about what Lucky was really up to. He had admitted he had lied about Lucky's whereabouts, explaining that Lucky wasn't searching for Luke as everyone believed, but he was deep undercover for Interpol, impersonating Ronan Riley, a feared Irish hitman connected to the Balkan. Lulu reflected on Lucky's recent relentlessness since his sons had moved out, and he'd wondered and how he'd been hinting at being tempted by an offer from Johnny, suggesting that his search for Luke might have been a way to stave off his inner turmoil. Dante revealed that his knowledge of the Balkan came from his previous work before coming to Port Charles and warned Lulu how deadly the Balkan truly was. He was deeply worried that Lucky might not survive the mission. When Lulu asked how he knew so much, Dante explained he had been tangentially involved in a case connected to the Balkan and understood the full extent of the threat. Despite Dante's concern, Lulu was determined to fly to Ireland to help Lucky. She argued that she was experienced at running scams and wasn't worried about compromising his cover. Dante countered that the more people who knew about the undercover operation, the greater the risk of exposure. Their conversation was interrupted by Tracy, who arrived wanting Lucky to stop searching for Luke, but she admitted she couldn't reach him. Lulu agreed to relay Tracy's message, but reminded her that Luke might return on his own. Tracy confessed that Luke was like an addiction to her, and she was ready to move on if he stayed away. Lulu lightened the mood by reminding Tracy that no matter what, she'd always be her step monster, no matter their legal status. Determined to find Lucky and make sure everything was okay, Lulu and Dante boarded a flight to Ireland. Lulu was a little excited about the Emerald Isle, especially since her parents had lived there briefly before she was born. Dante, on the other hand, had never left the United States except for a quick trip to Sonny's private island, but he admitted he'd always dreamed of traveling to Italy. Lulu teased him to stick with her, promising to show him the world. Wasn't the Balkan, though, an international?
Yes.
So if he had... Okay, we're not going to get into that. Upon arriving in Ireland, Lulu and Dante quickly located Ronan O'Reilly's room. Lulu showed off her skills by picking the lock to get inside, discovering some important documents and a photo of Ronan that confirmed just how much Lucky resembled the man he was impersonating. Dante was impressed by Lulu's talent and shared some personal thoughts about his own upbringing, wondering how things might have been different if Sonny had been more present in his life. Lulu reassured him that Olivia had done a great job raising him and reminded him of how complicated growing up could be, especially for someone like Michael. Shifting gears, they focused on the mission, noting that Lucky hadn't been in the room very long and agreeing it was time to track him down. Dante cautioned Lulu that this was no ordinary search. Dealing with the Balkan meant they were facing a very serious and deadly threat. Lucky sat bound to a chair in a dimly lit warehouse, frustration simmering beneath his calm exterior as one of the Balkan's thugs entered to deliver a blunt warning. Lucky would remain cuffed and tied until the Balkan himself showed up. Maintaining his Ronan O'Reilly persona, Lucky voiced his displeasure, which quickly earned him a harsh punch, knocking him in the chair backwards. Yet before the thug could regain control, Lucky spotted a small tool on the floor and discreetly worked on picking the lock of his handcuffs. Once the thug left, Lucky focused all his attention on freeing himself. When the thug returned for another confrontation, Lucky provoked a fight that ended with him overpowering and knocking the man out cold. He then grabbed the thug's gun and slipped out into the unknown. Across town at an Irish tavern, Lulu confidently approached the bar where Dante was already nursing a pint. She wasted no time asking the bartender about Ronan O'Reilly, only to be met with denial. Siobhan, who had overheard the conversation, made her presence known by joining Lulu and Dante at the bar. When Lulu inquired if Siobhan knew Ronan, the tension between the women was almost tangible. Siobhan's sharp insinuations about Lulu's past met with cool denials. Just then, Lucky himself walked in, scanning the room and noting the unusual company gathered around Siobhan. Siobhan's words cut deep as she confronted Lulu, hinting at a less than honorable reputation, but the focus quickly turned to Ronan when Dante asked if Siobhan considered herself a friend of his. Siobhan hesitated, caught off guard by the question.
I'm Andrea, founder of a boutique handbag brand, Andy, and this is why I switched to Shopify. I tried 3 other platforms prior to Shopify, and I remember my breaking point was when I would try to make one little change and my entire site would go down. Shopify made it really easy for me to shift everything over and hit the ground running. I was able to migrate my products and all of my customer information over.
Get a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/listen. Go to shopify.com/listen to take your business to the next level today.
Lucky stepped in, asking Siobhan about who these strangers were. She replied she didn't know them well, but that they had been asking about him. The bartender warned that any trouble should be taken outside, while Dante calmly introduced himself as a police officer, and Lulu revealed her own identity as Detective Leslie Spencer. She never uses her real name.
No, you should know not to use your real name, and I'm sorry, but I don't think that they respect police officers from the U.S. over in Ireland. Like, oh, okay.
They might respect Dante more because he actually is. But also, to your point, don't use your real name. That's also her searchable name. Lulu probably would come up as an alias because she uses it so much. But yeah, her legal name is Leslie.
Yeah. Yep.
So even more so, at least use your nickname.
Yeah. She's not very smart.
Well, the conversation at this time, she was still very young and very naive. She had not gone out and done anything.
She was very young, but I can't believe that Dante wasn't like, no. Like they hadn't had any conversation before this of do not be using your real name and don't be lying about your credentials.
But he was just getting to know her, so he didn't know this part of her. He probably did not think she was just going to take it upon herself to join in being a cop.
That's true.
Aw, look at them being all young and naive with each other.
Mm-hmm.
The conversation took a sharp turn as Dante pressed Lucky about his whereabouts on the night of a deadly bombing. Lucky's cool response that he'd been in church came with a warning to back off from probing too deeply. The 2 detectives retreated to a table, their silence heavy with unspoken thoughts.
Later, Lucky bought Siobhan a drink, despite the bartender's grumbles about the cops' presence. When the bartender suggested they find another place to avoid trouble, Lucky didn't hesitate to warn of potential disaster if his peace was disturbed further efficiently silencing the complaint. Siobhan questioned why Lucky wasn't planning to retaliate against the cops, but Lucky revealed he was trying to walk a new path after finding God. At their table, Lulu admitted her admiration for Lucky's con artistry, though Dante tempered that praise with a warning about the risk of impersonating someone you barely know. Both detectives shared a mutual respect for their ability to deceive when necessary. Nope, they're not both detectives because that wasn't really what Lulu was. Dante then informed Lucky that he should prepare to make a formal statement since he planned to collaborate with local authorities to apprehend Rowan. After Dante left, Siobhan laughed at the predicament and Lucky allowed her to believe he was behind the bombing.
They're talking about Lucky and Dante. Lucky and Dante are both detectives, and they share a mutual respect for their ability to see.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought they were trying to throw Lulu in there, and I'm like, no, it's not happening. Okay.
They're actually giving the actual detectives credit.
Okay, thank you. Yep, you're right. After Dante left, Siobhan laughed at the predicament, and Lucky allowed her to believe he was behind the bombing. She challenged him on how he could keep up such a life without his heart in it. Lucky's response was sobering. No matter what, he couldn't undo the lives lost by his hand. Siobhan urged him to betray the criminal he was working for, but Lucky warned she'd be disappointed if she pinned her hopes on his redemption. When Lucky returned to his room, Dante knocked and was welcomed inside. After ensuring the room was secure, they spoke candidly. Lucky demanded to know why they'd come. Dante and Lulu confessed they knew about his undercover role and wanted to support him. Lucky explained he had nearly secured a meeting with the Balkan before being kidnapped for changing the rendezvous spot. He believed the Balkan had kept him alive for a reason. They needed something from Ronan. Dante cautioned that the Balkan might have had a change of heart and warned Lucky not to grow overconfident. He urged him to quit before it was too late, but Lulu interrupted, insisting that Lucky wouldn't give up and they'd stand by him. Their conversation turned to the risks involved. Lucky was determined to continue, confident he was close to uncovering the Balkan's true identity. Dante stressed the difference between taking calculated risks and throwing one's life away. Lulu and Dante both refused to leave without him. Later, Dante accompanied Lucky back to the warehouse where he had been held captive, searching for any clues. Dante reminded Lucky that as the cold-blooded killer Ronan failed to kill when necessary would raise suspicion and put him at greater risk. The longer Lucky stayed undercover without fully committing to the role, the more likely it was he'd be exposed. When the Balkan's henchmen arrived at the warehouse, Lucky confronted them head-on with Rowan's characteristic boldness. Dante, concealed nearby, drew his weapon and ordered the men to surrender, ready to back Lucky up and protect him as the dangerous game continued. The gunfire erupted suddenly, and Lucky dropped to the ground as bullets flew. Dante quickly fired back, taking down one of the Balkan's thugs, while Lucky, pretending to be hit, seized the moment to grab a gun and shoot the other attacker. As sirens echoed in the distance, Dante urged Lucky to flee immediately, but Lucky insisted that Dante go alone, choosing to stay behind and handled what came next on his own. Meanwhile, at Ronan's apartment, Siobhan arrived and was met by Lulu, who was searching the room. Protective and suspicious, Siobhan challenged Lulu's right to be there, insisting Ronan had changed and deserved a second chance. Lulu wasn't convinced, arguing that killers don't simply change their stripes. Siobhan countered with the belief that a man who'd found God and hope could be different. Lulu playfully teased that Siobhan was falling for Ronan, and Siobhan thoughtful expressions suggested she might be right. Back on the streets, Lucky and Dante swiftly dispatched the thugs, escaping them as police sirens grew louder. Lucky slipped easily back into the role of Ronan and proposed they let the police find Ronan near the bodies to send a clear message to the Balkan. He promised to vanish before capture, though Dante agreed to the plan. He made Lucky promise to meet him half an hour later. At the apartment, Siobhan questioned Lulu about why American cops were chasing Ronan in Ireland without any chance to arrest him. Lulu explained that Ronan was believed to have vital information on an ongoing investigation. Trying to get more from Siobhan, Lulu suggested that they might have more success if she weren't a cop. Just then, Dante called, and Lulu quickly insisted they leave. As they departed, none of them realized Siobhan was hiding quietly in the closet, overhearing their detailed talk about Lucky's undercover work and their plan to draw off the Balkan. Lucky had found a cell phone on one of the dead thugs containing a message from the Balkan, and he intended to send the Balkan a photo of the bodies as bait. Lulu voiced her concern that the Balkan might explode in anger, but Lucky pointed out violence was exactly what the Balkan would expect, which only strengthened his cover. Dante agreed the move was clever and urged Lulu to stay the course, confident no one would uncover Lucky's true identity. Lucky admitted he hadn't had much choice in taking Ronan's identity and that he was navigating in the dark, but believed he had pulled off the impersonation well enough to fool even Siobhan. Hurt by Lucky's dismissal, Siobhan listened as Lucky explained how he would claim self-defense for the killings. Then Ronan's phone rang. It was Seamus, a trusted associate, wanting to meet. Lucky reluctantly agreed to a meeting elsewhere, but Lulu warned the encounter could blow his cover. Dante suspected Seamus would wait and would seek Lucky out regardless. Lucky wasn't worried, confident he had Siobhan's belief on his side. Lulu, though, thought it would be much harder to fool a seasoned hit woman like Siobhan. Dante decided to intercept Seamus himself, planning to pose as a cop to delay things, and Lulu insisted on coming along despite their objections. I don't understand why they couldn't, get her out. After noticing directions for the meeting, Lucky noticed Siobhan stepping out of the closet, visibly shaken. Realizing she'd been eavesdropping, Lucky chased after her. Siobhan confronted him angrily, exposing that she knew his real identity and was fed up with his lies. Lucky bared his soul, telling her about a long engagement that ended badly, his spiral into alcohol, and how he had found faith after hitting rock bottom in a church. Siobhan rejected him completely, wanting no part in his story or his lies. Soon after, police arrived and arrested Lucky, mistaking him for Ronan in connection with the murders. Meanwhile, Lulu and Dante, lost in the Irish countryside after their car sputtered to a stop, found shelter in an abandoned cottage. Dante shared tales of Irish superstitions and suggested calling on St. Brigid for guidance, which led to a light-hearted moment with the sounds of sheep nearby. A local farmer offered them the cottage and supplies, informing them of the nearest bus stop several miles away. They settled in, teasing and trading stories as they waited for news from Lucky. Tensions mounted when Lulu accidentally knocked out an Interpol agent she mistook for one of the Balkans' men. Dante insisted they make sure the agent was okay, but when the agent recovered, he ordered them back to Port Charles, warning they were distractions to Lucky rather than help. Despite protests, they were escorted onto a plane. Lulu fretted over Lucky's safety while flipping through a fashion magazine, surprising Dante when a picture of Brenda caught his eye. Back in Port Charles, Lucky admitted to Luke that he felt trapped and unsure of his new role with Interpol. Luke suspected the agency might be using Lucky as a pawn and warned of the Balkans' danger. Lucky acknowledged mistakes, but said he was finally trusting his instincts and feeling better than he had in years. Luke reminded him he was expendable and could be traded for the Balkan anytime. Soon after, police arrested Luke for breaking and entering and discovering he'd been impersonating Father Lucius. Lucky claimed ignorance, but Luke was taken away in handcuffs. Calling Tracy, Lucky was met with cold indifference. Visiting Luke in jail, Lucky explained he couldn't risk himself for his father, but noted Tracy's reaction hinted at a crack of her icy resolve. Luke encouraged Lucky to keep fighting and suggested winning over Siobhan, who overheard their secret conversation. When Lucky confronted Siobhan again, he apologized for deceiving her, but insisted his story was true. She accused him of manipulating her feelings, but he admitted he cared for her. When she said she didn't believe him, Lucky kissed her, blurring the lines between his undercover role and genuine emotions.
Aww.
I don't know that I could fall in love with someone that I know is undercover like that.
Well, okay, so this is the first time, and I felt like this didn't really, we heard Johnny offer him a job.
Yes.
But it didn't really dive into him really considering, like he mentioned it, but I feel like it's something that we would have had to have watched, like him really considering it. And the reason being, because Liz just had a third child, the second of which he thought was his.
Yep.
So he's a little upset right now. He's kind of like, you know what? I'm here in Port Charles. This is going on.
It really does show how messed up we are that even to this day, we're like, Liz and Lucky, they should get back together. It is wonderful. Whenever you think about all that crap, 2 kids that he thought were his, and then they weren't, even though one ended up being his. Like, yeah, that's a lot to go through.
It is really, but we love Liz. So then it's also like, it's that because she's why we should not want Lucky and Liz together.
I know.
But they're just so good together.
They are.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. It's just as we read it, I'm like, wait, what? Why are we rooting for them again?
Exactly. But because this was our love story,
Yep.
But yeah, so he made his way to Ireland and now he's working undercover for Interpol and maybe found a new love.
Maybe. We'll have to see what happens.
Week is definitely going to be Lucky.
Yes.
I don't think that there's any additional Liz stuff in there. But yeah, so that's this week's. We're coming up on it, guys. We're coming down. We're winding down on Lucky and Liz.
Sadly, yes.
Yes. But join us on Monday as we recap this week's shows.
Have a good weekend.
And we'll meet you at the pier.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's show, we invite you to go to pier54podcast.com to subscribe on your favorite platform. Don't forget to leave us a review. And you can also follow us on many social media channels. Just search for Pier54 Podcast. Also, we are not perfect, so if there is something that we missed or messed up, just let us know by emailing us at pier54podcast@gmail.com.
Pay attention. The ferry leaves at 10 a.m. Roads are busy.
Great.
Dad, pack the boot. Suitcases, Tetris style.
Yeah.
Rosie, got your teddy?
Uh-huh.
No going back this time. Honey, how's the car?
Windows clean, car wax, carpets.
I meant the tyres.
Oh, sorted them at Quick Fit last week.
Brilliant. If things go to plan, it'll be smooth sailing.
Planning the perfect getaway this summer? Make sure your tyres are up for the job. Book today at quickfit.com or your local centre. Quick Fit. Drive away happy every time.
For one night only, you could play the Traitors Live experience alongside former Traitors players and other famous faces at a special evening presented by Claudia Winkleman, raising money for comic relief. You could take on the likes of Rochelle Humes, Nish Kumar, Rosie Jones and Scott Mills, and legendary players including Linda, Mina and Diane. For your chance to enter and to see full T's and C's, go to comicrelief.com/traitors. This message was brought to you by Comic Relief in partnership with the lovely people at Acast.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.